The predator cubs refused every order from security but obeyed when the humans spoke. The holding bay was chaos. Steel partitions rattled with the pounding of clawed feet. The air reeked of musk and ozone, thick with the shrill cries of frustration. Every order barked through the translator units was met with snarls, bites, or deafening silence. The young ones were out of control. The Zirith were apex predators from the rimward reaches, reptilian hunters whose adults stood 3 meters tall and could rip open a bulkhead with their talons. The cubs, barely waist-high but already bristling with power, had been rescued from a smuggler's crate on the freighter Aegis Dawn. Now they were penned in quarantine aboard Concord Station, where the staff quickly discovered the problem: nothing and no one could make them behave. "Contain them," the security chief barked for the 5th time, his tusks clicking in frustration. "They are not dangerous yet, but if they learn to ignore orders now, we will never keep control." The guards tried stun batons. The cubs laughed. They tried sonic deterrence. The cubs mimicked the frequency and shrieked louder. They even brought in a Zirith liaison, an adult warrior with ceremonial scars, to command the children. The cubs hissed, turned their backs, and bit chunks out of the furniture. It was hopeless. Until a human walked in. The human's arrival. Her name was Mara Velasquez. She wasn't military, or Concord law, or even part of the quarantine staff. She was a civilian xenopsychologist from Earth, on station for a research lecture when she heard about the incident. "I'd like to try," she said. The security chief gaped. "You? They've ignored every protocol. You have no authority." Mara shrugged. "Authority is the problem. You've been shouting orders at predators who've never respected rank. They respect something else. And what is that? Instinct. The predator instinct." Mara entered the holding bay without armor, without a baton, without even a translator. The cubs froze when they saw her. Not because of her size, she was the smallest being in the room, but because she moved differently. Slow. Relaxed. Balanced. Not prey. Predator. The cubs lowered their heads and hissed, testing her. She didn't flinch. She crouched, making herself smaller, but her gaze never left theirs. Her eyes locked with the boldest cub, and she bared her teeth in a slow, deliberate smile. The cub froze. Then it chirped, a short, questioning sound. Mara answered not with words, but with a growl. Low. From her chest. A sound humans had carried since caves and campfires, the growl of a cornered mammal ready to fight. The cubs stilled. Their tails twitched. And then, one by one, they lowered themselves to the floor. The security staff stared. "By the stars," whispered the chief. "The first obedience." Mara extended her hand, palm down. The lead cub crept forward and sniffed. She gave a sharp hiss through her teeth when it got too close. The cub froze, then backed off, obedient. "Good," Mara murmured. She tapped the floor twice. Instantly, 3 cubs padded over and sat, as though they'd done it 100 times before. "They don't want a commander," she explained. "They want a pack leader. Orders from authority mean nothing. Orders from instinct mean everything." The chief's translator buzzed with disbelief. "You mean, they obey you?" The cubs yipped, tails swishing. One rolled onto its back at her feet. "Yes," Mara said simply. "Building the pack." Over the next hours, Mara worked with the cubs. She barked, growled, whistled. She rewarded them with scraps of synthetic protein when they obeyed. She scolded with guttural sounds when they didn't. Slowly, chaos gave way to order. The cubs lined up at her gesture. They quieted when she growled. They followed her movements with uncanny precision. When a guard tried the same, they laughed and ignored him. But when Mara snapped her fingers, they froze. Word spread across Concord Station. Visitors crowded the observation deck, watching the impossible. Predator cubs who had defied every species, now obedient to one small human. The reptilian confession. That evening, the Zirith liaison approached Mara. His scales shimmered darkly in the sterile light. "You shame us," he growled. Mara raised an eyebrow. "Because your cubs obey me?" "Yes. Because they obey you, and not us. You awaken something ancient in them. Something dangerous." "Dangerous how?" The liaison's pupils narrowed. "We fear humanity because you are not prey, yet not predator. You are both. You kill like hunters but breed like grazers. You starve, you fight, you burn your world, yet you rise stronger. Our cubs recognize this. They sense the pack leader of an entire death world." He lowered his voice. "Do not teach them too much, human. Or one day, they will not just obey. They will follow." The test of loyalty. The warning came sooner than anyone expected. 2 days later, smugglers raided Concord Station, hoping to reclaim the cubs. Explosions rocked the docking ring. Security scrambled. The cubs panicked, snarling and thrashing. Mara rushed into the bay. The guards tried to hold her back, but she shoved through. The cubs bared their teeth at the alarms. They could smell fear. They were moments from frenzy. Mara dropped to her knees. She let out a guttural roar that reverberated in the steel chamber. The cubs froze. She gestured sharply toward the corner. "Down." Every cub obeyed. The smugglers breached the doors with weapons drawn and found 12 Zirith cubs crouched silent as statues, staring with glowing eyes. And behind them, a human, standing unarmed, unflinching. The smugglers hesitated. That was their mistake. Security stormed in. The raiders fell. Not a single cub moved until Mara gave the order to stand. Aftermath. When the chaos ended, the chief approached Mara with something between awe and fear. "They would not even obey their own kind," he said. "But they obeyed you. Why?" Mara wiped grime from her cheek. "Because I didn't try to command them. I spoke their language. Not words. Not rules. Instinct." The chief shook his head. "Do you realize what you've done? Those cubs will remember this bond forever. To them, you are pack leader." Mara glanced at the cubs, who were watching her with unblinking devotion. "Then I'd better make sure I'm a good one." Epilogue. The leader of predators. Weeks later, the cubs were relocated to a Zirith sanctuary. But the reports continued. They ignored their handlers, snapped at trainers until Mara visited. Then, and only then, did they behave. The galaxy whispered. A human had tamed predator cubs with nothing but instinct and presence. The Zirith called it heresy. The Concord called it a miracle. The smugglers called it terrifying. And Mara? She just called it natural. Because deep down, every predator recognizes another. And humanity, adaptable, relentless, Deathworld-born humanity had just proven it to the stars.